I realize you guys see the projects, but you don't always know the knitter behind them. So today I'm going to try and answer 10 questions about my knitting life, and I'll try to be brutally honest. Welcome back, friends. My name is Melissa. I am the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company. If you are new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So let's jump into the 10 questions that I have here kind of off to the side. The first one is, how many works in progress do you actually have right now, including the ones you're hiding from yourself? So if you saw my WIP Reckoning video from a few weeks ago, you know that in that video I had essentially 40 WIPs. We didn't count all the socks individually. I have a general sense because there was 9 in one bag, 23 in another. It's a lot. And I did find another bin that had 4 or 5 other WIPs. So we're standing somewhere around 45 solid WIPs. And quite honestly, I've only been rotating through about 6 or 7 on average. The goal was to figure out how many of those needed to be ripped out, which as of filming this video, I haven't actually frogged them yet, but it is on my to-do list because I would like to reclaim the yarn and the needles and the notions and everything in those project bags. The second question is, what is a popular pattern, yarn brand, or trend that everyone seems to love but you secretly can't stand? And I would have to say, if we were picking a trend, for me, I don't like the crop trend. And before anybody comes for me, because I have a feeling this is a pretty unpopular opinion, I personally don't wear high-waisted bottoms. I understand that if you wear high-waisted pants or you like to wear things over dresses, that for many people a cropped look is a good look. And my natural waist does sit up higher, which is where that cropped look is intended to be. I'm just not a fan. I'm not saying that I want to wear a tunic, but I do like mine a little bit shorter and closer to more of a mid-rise, where it's an inch over my mid-rise pants, because I don't wear high-waisted things. So the cropped trend really gets to me because there are so many patterns coming out that are cropped, and they don't all look great when you extend them. The third question on my list is about process, and it says, do you actually swatch for every project? Be honest, when was the last time you skipped it? I am a huge advocate for swatching. But I will say that I do not swatch all the time, and the only reason that I don't is because as a yarn dyer, I do use my own yarn the most because I'm knitting my own samples, that sort of thing. So if I'm using my own yarn and I already know what my gauge is with that yarn on a particular needle size, I'm going to skip swatching, because I already know how it's going to behave. I probably already have a swatch lying around in my home, and I can go from there. If it is a yarn that is not my own, and I don't know the source, because I do have dyer friends that source their yarn from similar distributors as I do. So if I know that yarn, then again, I'm not going to swatch. But many times, if it's, say, a mass-produced yarn or a yarn from a dyer that I've never worked with, I'm absolutely going to swatch if I'm making a garment, like a sweater. I totally skip swatching for things like towels, hats. Although my muscle burrow hat, I did swatch because you kind of have to in order to figure out what your gauge is to know how many stitches to knit. But so most of the time, because it's my own yarn, I am skipping swatching. But if it's unfamiliar territory for me with a yarn is expensive, y'all. I'm not going to gamble making something that doesn't fit. The next question is a money question, and it is, what is the most expensive single skein of yarn you've ever bought? And did you actually use it, or is it too precious to knit? For me, this is a really easy one. I don't have any precious skeins of yarn. I can't even think of any one skein that I've spent. Like, I don't have any precious fibers or anything. So for me, this is pretty easy because before I was a dyer, I pretty much bought standard commercial yarn. I don't have any special skeins. For me, maybe I have precious skeins that I've not knit with because of the dye technique, like the beauty of the colorway, but not because it was just expensive. The next question is about technique, and it asks, what is one knitting technique that you refuse to do or still haven't learned? I can't say that I refuse to learn anything. As a teacher, I've always considered myself a lifetime learner. So I'm always willing to try something, but just because I try it doesn't mean I'm going to stick with it or I'm going to like it. I will say that when it comes to brioche, I did learn how to knit brioche. I can't say that I'm very good at fixing the mistake. If it's my brioche project, I will fiddle and I will fool around with it, and I could probably fix it. But when I've had to help other people, like as a knitting coach, I wouldn't touch someone else's brioche because I wasn't confident in recognizing the architecture of the yarn to be able to fix it for them and make it present correctly. But I do know that I don't know how to increase or decrease in brioche, and it's not because I don't want to know, but I don't particularly enjoy brioche knitting. So I've just never taken that leap to go to the next level and learn those things. So those would be techniques that I quote unquote struggle with, but it's just because I prefer to go around and around, but if it presented itself where I was sitting through a workshop or had the opportunity to learn, I'd totally jump in. The next question it has to do with gifting, and it is, have you ever knit a gift for someone who didn't appreciate it, and what happened? I will be the first to admit that I am very much a selfish knitter. I don't really gift knit for other people. I have knit for when my grandmother was alive. I did make her a few things. I have made my parents things, my sister, my husband, but outside of that, I mean, I have made baby gifts for people, and I feel like baby gifts are always appreciated. I've always been a big blanket maker, the type of blanket that's not an heirloom, but that the last handful that I've made, those babies have grown into toddlers and young children who still sleep with that blanket every night. So drag it around, take it everywhere, that kind of thing. So I can't say that anyone has ever been unappreciative or been not knit worthy, but really because I don't do a ton of gift knitting. The next question has to do with my television habit and knitting. And it asks, can you knit while reading subtitles or watching a complex show? Or do you need trash TV only? And I will say that it really depends on what I'm knitting. I can absolutely watch a complex show or a movie or read subtitles on things if I am working something that is very vanilla. If I am working on the body of the sweater and I'm just going around and around, if I'm working on the leg or the foot of a sock and I'm just going around and around, I don't need to look at my knitting, so I can totally pay attention to the television. I have taken, sock projects to the movie theaters where it's dark. I don't have any problems with that. However, I would not be able to work on anything more complicated and be able to give the television my undivided attention, per se. And then in those instances, I wouldn't be able to knit. And then I would need not necessarily trash TV because I've kind of moved away from that because life right now in the United States is so dramatic and chaotic just in in the natural news cycle that reality like trash television I can't handle it too. But I will watch things that are soothing and very witty banter like dialogue, things like Gilmore Girls, The West Wing, things that I don't necessarily have to be watching but can totally follow the plot just by the dialogue alone. Question number 8 has to do with frogging, and it said, "What's the biggest project you have ever had to rip back or frog completely? Did you cry?" I have done a couple of sweaters where I have frogged them, and I can't say that I was very upset. I do have a sweater right now that I'm planning on frogging, and the body of like this sweater is done. It just needs sleeves. I have a couple of them that way. And though that is hours and hours of work, I'm more excited to reclaim yarn and needles and notions. When I decide to frog something, I'm usually pretty set in that decision. The next question has to do with being a yarn snob, and it said, "Is there a specific type of yarn fiber, like acrylic, mohair, cotton, that you absolutely refuse to work with?" I am not a yarn snob. Those baby blankets that babies grow into toddlers who drag them around, they're absolutely 100% acrylic. I have no qualms with knitting acrylic. I have a beloved blanket that my mom crocheted for me that was made from, acrylic red heart yarn. I love that blanket. I still use it to this day. Mohair, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I can wear it. But I recognize that other people can't wear it. It's rather itchy, but I don't have any qualms with it. It's not my go-to choice. I'll always pick Surrey over mohair, but no qualms with it. And cotton, I don't mind knitting with cotton. It is very drying on your hands, much like any plant fiber. I do prefer my plant fibers blended with like wool, some kind of animal fiber, but I don't have any qualms with it. And then the last question on my list is, if you could only knit one type of item for the rest of your life, what would it be? So this is like socks, sweaters, shawls. And if you've been around me or you've watched my videos for any length of time, you know that I primarily knit socks and sweaters. So for me, that's a really tough one, but I would probably choose socks over sweaters in the end if I had to pick one for the rest of my life. And really, it's because they're incredibly portable. I almost always have a sock project on me. Whether I'm going to the doctor's, I'm going out to dinner, I'm going to my parents' house, like whatever I'm doing, I almost always have a sock project in my pocketbook. I also wear my socks. I don't just make them, I wear the heck out of them. Now, I tend not to wear them in the summertime because I live in Maryland. It's incredibly humid, and I just don't like wearing socks in general when it's like 90 degrees outside. But I do wear them pretty consistently from like September to May or June, whenever it starts to get into those summertime temps. So I'd love to know, like, what is your answer to one of these questions I've been asked? I'm dying to know what some of your answers would be. If you liked this content, you'd like to see more, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next time, friends, happy making.